There are things at the bottom of the ocean that humans were never meant to find. I learned this in 1999 the hard way. My name is not important, but my credentials are. 35 years as a diver. 37 successful operations. 0 casualties. That perfect record ended in Bermuda. People trusted me because I had never lost a crew member. When a job was considered too risky or too technical for standard crews, my phone would ring. I had a reputation built on 3 decades of keeping people alive in places that wanted to kill them. What happened in Bermuda destroyed that reputation and nearly destroyed me. So before we continue, please make sure you leave a like and let us know where you are watching from. Thanks. You do not survive 35 years in deep water work without learning hard lessons. I watched a hull implode at 15,000 feet, killing everyone inside before they could scream. I survived equipment failures that should have been fatal. I made split-second decisions that meant life or death. It means I had been in situations where one wrong decision, one moment of hesitation, one equipment failure would have killed everyone aboard. And it means I had made the right decisions, stayed calm under pressure, and brought my people home alive. Every single time. Until Bermuda. I was methodical by nature, which had kept me alive through situations that killed less careful people. Every decision I made was calculated. Every risk was assessed against reward. Every procedure was followed exactly as written, because procedures were written in blood by people who learned the hard way what happens when you take shortcuts at depth. That methodical approach had earned me respect in an industry where mistakes cost lives and second chances do not exist. I had survived equipment failures that should have killed me. I had survived weather that had sunk ships twice the size of mine. I had survived human error, both my own and others. My experience was not just years on a resume or certifications on a wall. It was scars earned and lessons bought with blood. Every mark on my body told a story about what not to do, what to watch for, what could go wrong. I carried those lessons into every dive, every mission, every descent into water that wanted me dead. Before Bermuda, my record was perfect. Not lucky, not easy, but perfect through discipline and respect for the ocean. 37 major operations spanning 2 decades. Hundreds of individual dives. Thousands of hours at depths that would crush a human body in seconds if the equipment failed. Depths where the pressure is measured in tons per square inch and a single crack in the hull means everyone dies before they can even scream. Every single person who descended with me came back alive. That was not luck. That was preparation, training, experience, and a healthy fear of what could go wrong. That record was not just professional pride, though I was proud of it. It was a promise I made to every crew member who trusted me with their life. I will bring you back. I will not let you die down there. I will get you home to your family. That promise, that perfect record, that reputation built over decades, all of it ended in 1999 at the bottom of Bermuda. I got the call on a Thursday evening. An unknown number, which is never a good sign in this business. The voice on the other end offered me a contract for deep survey work. The pay was good. Too good, I thought at first. When I asked who was paying, I got a corporate name I had never heard of, which should have been my first warning. In deep water work, everyone knows everyone. The industry is small, specialized, and tightly connected. Unknown clients usually mean classified work, military contracts, or operations that skirt legal boundaries. But the money was good, the timeline was manageable, and I had bills to pay. So I took the meeting. They needed someone to survey an anomaly at 19,000 feet in Bermuda. When I asked what kind of anomaly, they showed me sonar images that made no sense. Returns that suggested structure where there should have been only open water and sea floor. Formations that appeared geometric, almost artificial, in an area that had been surveyed multiple times before and shown nothing. The previous survey, conducted 6 months earlier, had detected nothing unusual. Now suddenly there was something there, something large, something that had either appeared recently or had somehow avoided detection until now. Neither explanation made sense, but the data did not lie. Something was down there. The area was known for extreme conditions, even by deep water standards. Bermuda was not just deep, it was dangerous. Unpredictable currents that could snap cables like thread. Pressure differentials that could crack hull seals. Temperature variations that made equipment behave erratically. And old stories. Stories that veteran divers told quietly over drinks but would never put in official reports. Stories about lights moving beneath the surface. About sonar contacts that appeared and disappeared. About ships that reported equipment failures in the same spot and then vanished. I knew the stories. Everyone who worked these waters knew the stories. And everyone pretended they were just stories. The pay was standard for this type of work. Not exceptional, not suspiciously high, just standard market rate for deep survey operations. That actually reassured me at the time. Companies that overpay are usually compensating for risks they are not disclosing. Companies that pay market rate are treating it as routine work, which meant they expected it to be survivable. The timeline was tight but not impossible. 3 weeks for preparation, equipment acquisition, crew assembly, and deployment. Then 2 weeks on site for the actual survey work. Standard timeline for this depth and complexity. The briefing lasted 2 hours in a windowless conference room that smelled of coffee and anxiety. Charts covered every available surface. Topographic maps showing the ocean floor. Depth contours marking the descent from continental shelf to abyssal plain. Current patterns that swirled in complex eddies. Temperature gradients that showed thermoclines and cold water upwellings. The project manager, a woman in her 50s who introduced herself only as Director Chen, walked through mission parameters with mechanical precision that suggested military background. Descent profile showing our planned route to target depth. Survey pattern outlining how we would map the anomaly. Equipment deployment procedures. Ascent protocol with decompression stops calculated to the minute. Emergency procedures for every conceivable failure mode. Everything was documented. Everything was planned. Everything followed established safety guidelines that had been written and rewritten over decades of deep water operations. On paper, reviewed objectively, this was a routine operation. Complex, yes. Dangerous, certainly. But routine within the context of deep water work. I had done harder dives. I had worked deeper waters. I had survived worse conditions. This should have been manageable. But there were gaps in the briefing, blank spaces in the documentation that bothered me in ways I could not immediately articulate. Questions that got deflected or answered with technically accurate but fundamentally evasive responses. Why this specific location at this specific time? What exactly had the previous survey mission detected that prompted this expensive follow-up? What happened to that crew? Why were the confidentiality requirements so strict, with non-disclosure agreements that included criminal penalties for violations? I asked these questions directly. Director Chen gave me answers that were correct in their particulars but wrong in their implications. The previous crew had reported equipment malfunctions and cut their mission short, she said. Standard decision when systems are not performing optimally. The data they collected was inconclusive, she said. Hence the need for this mission. The location was of scientific interest, she said. Hence the confidentiality to prevent other research groups from jumping the claim. All reasonable. All logical. All technically true. And yet 35 years of experience had taught me that what people carefully avoid saying is usually more important than what they say directly. But the money was good, my bills were real, and my pride said I could handle whatever complications arose. That pride, that confidence in my own abilities, was a mistake that almost cost me everything. The crew assembled 4 days before departure in a waterfront hotel that catered to commercial diving operations. Rodriguez handled navigation and had worked these waters for 15 years before I ever set foot in them. Tall, weathered by sun and salt, with hands scarred from rope and cable work. They had that particular economy of movement that comes from spending years in confined spaces where wasted motion means bumping into equipment or crew. They checked everything twice as a matter of habit, then checked it a third time before signing off, which made them slow but reliable in exactly the way I needed. We had worked together on 2 previous operations that had gone smoothly, which meant we had established communication patterns and mutual trust. Not friendship, exactly. You do not need to like someone to trust them with your life at depth. You just need to know they will do their job exactly as they should, every time, without fail. Chen managed systems and technical operations. Younger than the rest of us by at least a decade, maybe 30 years old, with the kind of technical brilliance that only comes from formal education combined with practical experience. They had an engineering degree from MIT and had worked on submarine systems for the Navy before transitioning to commercial diving. They could diagnose problems most people would not even recognize as problems, could jury-rig solutions from whatever materials were available, could explain complex technical concepts in language that non-engineers could understand. They never wasted words. Every sentence was information, every statement was precise, every answer was exact. Some people found that off-putting. I found it reassuring. At depth, in an emergency, with seconds to make decisions, you do not want conversation. You want information delivered fast and accurate. Santos was our equipment specialist and safety officer, roles that often conflict but that Santos managed to balance through sheer competence. They had worked offshore oil platforms in the Gulf for 15 years, had survived 3 major accidents including a platform fire that killed 6 people, had seen enough things go wrong to develop a healthy paranoia about equipment maintenance and safety procedures. They brought energy to the crew that could be exhausting or essential depending on circumstances. Where Rodriguez and I were cautious and measured, Santos was enthusiastic about the technical challenges. That enthusiasm, that genuine excitement about solving difficult problems, kept morale up during the long preparation phase. In the end, it made no difference. Enthusiasm does not matter when you're trapped at depth with failing systems and something outside that should not exist. We spent 3 days running through procedures together, longer than strictly necessary but time well spent. Communication protocols practiced until they became automatic. Emergency responses drilled until muscle memory took over. Equipment redundancies checked and double-checked. Everyone knew their role. Everyone understood the risks. Everyone believed we were adequately prepared. The vessel we would use was a proven design, a deep submergence vehicle that had logged thousands of safe dives to comparable depths. Hull integrity rated to 40,000 feet with safety margins built in. Life support systems with triple redundancy. Communications equipment with backup systems and backup systems for the backups. Navigation with GPS, inertial guidance, and acoustic positioning. Every component was tested, certified by multiple regulatory agencies, and tested again before we loaded it aboard the support ship. The night before departure, I found myself unable to sleep despite exhaustion from 3 weeks of intensive preparation. Not from nerves exactly, though pre-mission anxiety is normal and even healthy in this line of work. A certain amount of fear keeps you sharp, keeps you from getting careless, keeps you focused on the fact that everything you are about to do could kill you if you make a mistake. But this felt different. Heavier. More specific. Like standing at the edge of something permanent and irreversible. My body was trying to tell me something my mind refused to hear, sending signals I had learned over decades to recognize and respect. I had felt this before dives that went wrong. I had felt this before equipment failures that nearly killed people. I had felt this before decisions that I later regretted. But in the moment, with the contract signed, the crew assembled, the equipment loaded, the support ship waiting, turning back felt impossible. The momentum of the operation carried me forward despite my instinct screaming at me to stop. Looking back now, that was the critical mistake. Not the descent. Not the discovery. Not the emergency ascent. The mistake was ignoring my body when it tried to warn me that we were going somewhere we should not go, to see things we were not meant to see, to learn truths that would destroy us. The descent began at dawn with clear skies and calm seas, conditions that would not last but that gave us a perfect weather window for the critical first phase. We sealed the hatches with final checks on every seal, every O-ring, every mechanical linkage. Ran through the pre-dive checklist one final time. Committed to going down. That moment of commitment is always significant in deep water work, the moment when you cross from surface where rescue is possible to depth where you are alone. Once you start descending past a certain depth, 5,000 feet or so, turning back becomes as dangerous as continuing forward. The decompression required for ascent takes time, uses life support resources, exposes you to risks that increase with every additional ascent and descent cycle. So you commit. You go all the way down, complete your mission, and then you come back up. There is no changing your mind halfway. We went down in stages, stopping every 1,000 feet for equalization and comprehensive system verification. The water changed color gradually at first, from surface blue-green to deeper blue, then to blue-gray, then to gray, and finally to black. Light dies gradually in water. The reds disappear first, absorbed by the water within the first 30 feet. Then oranges go at 100 feet. Yellows fade by 300. By 5,000 feet you are in a perpetual twilight, a dim blue-gray gloom where your eyes strain to see anything at all. By 10,000 feet you are in absolute darkness broken only by your instrument lights and the external floods. The transition is gradual enough that you do not notice it happening, and then suddenly you are in complete black water with no reference point except depth gauges telling you how far down you have come. Temperature dropped from surface warmth to near freezing in less than 2 hours of descent. From 70 degrees Fahrenheit at the surface to 35 degrees at depth, right at the edge of where sea water freezes. The hull groaned and creaked under mounting pressure, sounds that are normal and expected but that never stop being deeply unsettling. Metal under pressure makes noises that you feel in your bones, in your teeth, in the joints of your hands. Deep pops and groans as the hull flexes microscopically under forces that are trying to crush it into a sphere. You learn over time to distinguish between normal stress noises and dangerous sounds, between creaks that mean everything is working as designed and sounds that mean something is failing and you need to abort immediately. The sounds we were hearing were normal, textbook examples of how a properly designed hull responds to increasing pressure. But they were still ominous, still disturbing, still reminders that we were descending into an environment actively hostile to human life. By 12,000 feet, we were in complete darkness except for our instruments and external lights. The pressure gauge climbed steadily, remorselessly, adding tons of pressure per square inch with every 1,000 feet of descent. At 12,000 feet, the pressure was roughly 5,000 pounds per square inch, enough to crush an unprotected human body instantly, enough to collapse an oil drum into a compact cube of crumpled metal, enough to make every seal and every weld a potential failure point. The hull was rated for this pressure and much more, engineered with safety margins and tested extensively. But those margins existed precisely because hulls do fail, seals do crack, and metal does fatigue in ways that are not always predictable or detectable before catastrophic failure. I monitored every instrument, every gauge, every system reading. Heart rate steady. Breathing controlled. Mind clear. This was what I did. This was what I was good at. Descending into hostile environments and bringing everyone back alive. I had done it dozens of times. That confidence was about to be tested in ways I could not have imagined. At 18,000 feet, the first anomaly appeared. Temperature sensors spiked impossibly, from 2 degrees to 15 then back down in 30 seconds. That should not have been possible at this depth. Nobody spoke for a full minute. Then Rodriguez asked if anyone else had noticed it. We all confirmed what we had seen. Chen suggested equipment malfunction, which was the logical explanation. But something about the pattern bothered me. I decided to continue to our target depth. We had come too far to turn back on a single anomaly. I had seen plenty of strange readings over the years that turned out to be nothing more than unusual water conditions or instrument errors. I ran through the possibilities methodically. Every scenario I could think of had a rational explanation. None of those explanations felt right. 20 minutes later, the second anomaly occurred. Something struck the hull. Not a gentle bump from debris. A deliberate strike that left a dent in reinforced steel rated for pressures that could crush a car. This time there was no hesitation. Every person in that crew knew we were dealing with something outside our training and experience. Rodriguez and Chen confirmed it independently. Multiple systems showing the same impossible data. But we were already committed. Already at depth. Already past the point where aborting was simple or safe. Emergency ascent from this depth without proper decompression would risk the bends, nitrogen narcosis, pulmonary barotrauma. The safe choice was to continue to target depth, complete minimal mission requirements, and then ascend properly. That was the logical decision. The decision that almost killed us. We reached target depth and began our survey pattern. Our instruments showed readings that contradicted themselves. Temperature spikes. Magnetic anomalies. Pressure variations. And then we found it. We found structures that could not have been natural. The scale was massive. Our lights could only illuminate a small portion. Details showed patterns that suggested design. Textures that implied purpose. Features that defied natural formation. My eyes struggled to process what they saw. The crew went silent. Our minds struggled to process sensory input that contradicted everything we knew. We recorded everything. Took measurements. Photographed it. But cameras malfunctioned. Instruments gave contradictory readings. Sonar showed shapes that looked different from multiple angles. It was as if whatever this was refused to be documented properly. Chen said what we were all thinking. This should not be here. This cannot be here. But it was here, undeniably present, undeniably real, undeniably impossible. That is when systems began failing. Not randomly. But systematically, as if something understood our technology and was methodically disabling it. First, ballast control stopped responding. We could not adjust depth, could not begin emergency ascent. Then communication with surface became erratic. Multiple independent systems failing in ways that should not correlate. Chen attempted to manually override controls, but manual controls were also unresponsive. The failures followed a pattern that suggested deliberate interference. Santos started showing signs of stress. The psychological pressure was mounting. Fear is contagious in confined spaces. One person breaking down can cascade through an entire crew. I had seen it happen. We were in severe danger at 19,000 feet with no way to ascend normally and failing life support. I gathered what remained of the crew. Explained our situation with brutal honesty. We could not stay. We could not ascend normally. We had to attempt emergency ascent and accept the risks. Decompression sickness. Nitrogen narcosis. Pulmonary barotrauma. Versus certain death if we stayed. Not a choice really. Just an acknowledgement of reality. The decision to attempt emergency ascent came when oxygen reserves dropped below critical levels. I ran through every option. Every option had extreme risk, but staying meant certain death. We dumped everything. Blew ballast. Activated every system designed for emergency ascent. For 30 seconds, nothing happened. The vessel shuddered. The hull groaned. We were not moving. Then something changed. The resistance we had been fighting against suddenly was not there anymore. We shot upward with acceleration that pushed us against the deck. The ascent was chaos. We rose faster than safe, skipping all decompression stops. Warning alarms screamed continuously. The hull groaned and flexed. I held the controls and tried to slow our ascent. Metal screamed. Rivets popped. By every law of physics, every engineering principle, every safety calculation, we should have died. The hull should have failed. But somehow we kept rising, kept ascending, kept moving toward the surface. The water changed color. Darkness gave way to gray, then to blue-green, then to light. We were going to make it. And then we broke through. We broke the surface at dawn. We were 12 hours overdue. The recovery team found us drifting. They examined our vessel. Medical personnel examined us. Officials examined our story. We told them everything. Told them about the descent, the anomalies, what we found, the system failures, the emergency ascent. Everything. Every detail. They wrote it all down with faces that revealed nothing. The official debrief took 3 days. They separated us for interviews, looking for inconsistencies. They were trying to catch us lying or mistaken or suffering from nitrogen narcosis. But our stories matched. The physical evidence supported what we said. The final report cited equipment malfunction, human error, stress-induced perception distortion. Every impossible thing we saw was explained away. The data we recorded was classified. We were told to never speak of what happened. I tried to keep diving after Bermuda. Made it through 2 more operations before I broke. The third dive, at 8,000 feet, I had a full psychological breakdown. They had to sedate me and bring me up early. My career was over. The other crew members dealt with it differently. Chen disappeared 2 years later. Left a note saying they were going inland, as far from the ocean as geography allowed. Nobody has heard from them since. By 2009, I was the only survivor still alive. The mission we shared became a secret we carried separately. My health deteriorated slowly at first, then rapidly. Chronic fatigue. Muscle weakness. Cognitive problems. Every test came back normal. Every specialist was baffled. They ran tests, did scans, consulted specialists. Nothing showed medical cause. The symptoms never went away. They got worse with time. Sleep became impossible without medication. And medication just made the dreams more vivid. I would wake up screaming, convinced I was still at 19,000 feet with something outside waiting for me. The smell of salt water makes me nauseous. The sound of waves triggers panic attacks. I moved to Arizona, about as far inland as I could get, and I still feel it sometimes. The knowledge I carry has no value because I cannot share it. The truth I know has no power because nobody believes it. I am alone with memories that will not fade. That was 25 years ago. I am 105 now. The cancer started 2 years ago. Aggressive. Untreatable. The doctors do not understand why it is not responding to therapy. I understand. What started in 1999 is finishing now. I wish I had turned back. I should have listened to the warnings. I ignored my instincts. I led my crew into danger. I know things humans should not know. The truth is a weight I cannot set down. What I learned cannot be unlearned. I am telling this story because others need to know. The coordinates are in classified records somewhere. Eventually someone will go back. Maybe they already have. I hope they are smarter than we were. They should turn back. Do not go there. Some places should remain unexplored. They will find my body in a few days or weeks. The autopsy will show cancer. The death certificate will list natural causes. My family will mourn and move on. But you, reading this, you need to know the truth. What happened in 1999 at 19,000 feet in Bermuda was not natural. It was not random. It was not equipment failure or human error or bad luck. It was contact with something that exists outside our understanding of what is possible. I paid for that contact with my life, slowly, over decades. Others have paid the same price. Others will pay it again. Because the ocean does not change. It does not evolve. It simply is. And what lives in the deep has been there longer than humans have existed and will be there long after we are gone.